growth of that company was limited by my ability to have time to work on it and in it.
Right.
And so that's what I was looking to be able to do, is how do I, with TRP systems and coaching, how do I work on the business more and above the business, allowing me to just create efficiencies in my time and proper meeting rhythms so that I could do both things, so I could run two different companies at the same time.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
At Genesis, we help successful chiropractors implement spinal decompression with a fully turnkey system that handles everything from marketing and new patient generation to systems, protocols, and ongoing support. The result? Massive value for your practice and life-changing outcomes for your patients, all without drugs or surgery. This is the next evolution in chiropractic care. Welcome to Genesis.
Let's start with, why did you approach the Remarkable practice initially, right? So I know that you and I had a bit of an overlapping multiple thing going on in the beginning before you actually started coaching with me and coaching with us. But I'd love to hear from you. It's like you had a bit of a breakaway situation, which I have insight into. And then next thing you know, you found yourself sort of between coaching programs, knowing that at one point you wanted to move into something that would create some structure and take you to the next level. So that's the story I'd love to hear from you.
The 6, 7, or 8, I can't remember the exact number of ways to pay an associate. That's how I found you. That lead magnet, I had just been winging it with associate compensation models, and I needed to find a better process and somebody that had done it before, so I could make sure I was making the best decision for the next phase of associate compensation plans.
Okay, very good.
That's how I first found
Tell us a bit tell me about your practice at that point, like before you even started with us. What's that journey look like?
You want me to, how did we get to there, or where were we at?
Yeah, I think you can thumbnail sketch it.
Yeah, so we were at that point, I was still adjusting in the clinic, but we had at a reduced rate. So I was still mostly coach, but I was still playing the game. And we had, 4 associates at that time, 3 full-time and 1 part-time. And we were probably at 1,400-ish a week, 1,300 to 1,400 visits a week. That was after COVID that we found you guys.
Yep.
So we had just gone through COVID in that process, and we did all right. I think we were doing really good. We were growing as a company and as a business, but it was a lot of my time. I think I was probably spending 75% of my work week working on or in higher health. I would say 25% of my work week working on higher health, and another 50% of my work week working in higher health.
Okay, very good. So just for context, you have a second business, a second project that you had a vision for. Why don't you talk a little bit about that to give it context?
Yeah, so we started a software company, SKED, in 2016 to help chiropractors. Really, I just started to help myself automate and leverage technology so we could grow more, and we would save us time and have an infinite ceiling for growth. How do we scale so we can continue to see more people infinitely? And that software came out of that. So that was something that I was really passionate about and excited about and had a big opportunity ahead. It was really just limited. The growth of that company was limited by my ability to have time to work on it and in it.
Right.
And so that's what I was looking to be able to do, is how do I, with TRP systems and coaching, how do I work on the business more and above the business, allowing me to just create efficiencies in my time and proper meeting rhythms so that I could do both things. So I could run two different companies at the same time.
That's right. So just
Not
to
just
clarify,
run. I think that's the difference too. Not just run two companies, but like have two thriving, growing companies inside of chiropractic.
right. And that's only going to happen when you step away from running the business and start leading the business, right?
Yes.
So, right. And having the right person, the operator in the seat that's running the business for you, right? So let's just to clarify, you were already successful, right? So you had figured out scalability and having multiple doctors in there with you and leveraging technology, leveraging teams, leveraging systems, and especially leveraging other chiropractors. So you created this scalability, but your interest was, hey, I see there's an opportunity here where I can have this other project really go and grow and serve our patients better. We can serve more people, which is very on purpose. And then we can help other chiropractors serve more people, which is, again, very much on purpose. So the reason I'm going down this road is what you needed to create was durability, because that business needed Dr. Eric. They needed your focus to be able to fully lead it and to develop it and generate it, which meant you had to pull away from the practice, right? So
Yep.
the difference between scalability and durability is the trick, right? So it's the durability that frees you up so you don't have to be in that practice. And this is the point I want to clarify, is we all know there's a difference between having to see patients and getting to see patients, right? So now, did you want to get out of the adjusted term because you just hate adjusting people and you hate working with patients? Or isn't it funny how people have that limiting belief? It's like, well, wait a minute, I love chiropractic. I love adjusting patients. I don't want to have to stop adjusting patients.
Yeah, and I love that. That's the easiest thing I could go do right now, is just go take care of people. And probably the most like fulfilling, immediate fulfillment is just to go serve in the adjusting rooms. So I love doing that. That was probably the hardest thing to give up.
That's right. What was the key for you just making that decision? It's like, okay, I understand where I am now, but in order to go where I want to go next, there's some changes that are going to need to be made.
Yeah, I think I just recognized the team needed a better leader. And I think the company needed a better leader. And the only way I was going to become a better leader is if I had the time to pour into myself and work on how do I become a better leader. And I think a lot of that at that point, I could just grow by brute force and like doing things. And it became a time where I needed to just slow down so I could think and process and like learn and educate myself on how to get to the next level, and how I can, if I don't understand and have clarity on it, then the team and everybody else doesn't either. And I think for a long time up to that point, they didn't really have clarity. They just knew, well, it's going to work out as long as he's leading it. So whatever he's going to do, I'll just go along with it. And it and it worked. It's just if you remove me from the equation, now nobody knows what's going on. And so that's what I had to fix.
Exactly right. And you can imagine that limits the business. It's definitely going to, if you're trying to do that for two businesses, it's bad enough when you're trying to do it for one business, but
Yes.
it's almost impossible to do it for two businesses, right? So, and let's not forget that shows up in your personal life, as well, right? So talk to me about that. So, I mean, you guys have a big personal life, right? So you got a lot going on at home too.
We do. We have 6 kids, 3 boys, 3 girls, and a great marriage. That's super important to us. And my wife is not a chiropractor, but she helps support all businesses in whichever capacity they are. She helped start the chiropractic office and basically did everything except adjust, because I was just adjusting. So that's really important. I think keeping our kids focused on what's most important to them, and making sure they don't grow up spoiled brats, and
Right.
they're productive citizens to this world, is important to us. And so yeah, we spend a lot of time talking and planning about that. Just as much, I would say, as we plan and prepare for the businesses, we do the same thing with our family.
That's right, man. Remarkable practice is part of a remarkable life, not instead of one is a market promise, right? It's not a tagline. So
Yes.
talk to me about what the businesses have done. So let's talk about the practice first, and let's get some data like revenue, profit, volume in the practice, and then same thing with SKED. Like, what have you been able to achieve over the last couple of years now?
Well, what's interesting is you go from adjusting in the clinic to, so I didn't really realize this at the time, but like the layers of leadership, you go from being in the clinic where you can just, you don't really need to tell everybody exactly what they should be doing because you're just doing it and everybody's just doing kind of what you're doing. So then when you step out of adjusting, now the team needs leadership, which takes an enormous amount of time. So you go from leading your patients to then stepping out of that, and now you're leading the docs and the team. And so then the next layer of that is like you're leading a COO or an operations manager and a clinic director who is then leading the team, who is then leading the patients. And it's like this ascension up, which takes just a whole nother layer of leadership ability and learning how to do that and at an effective rate and like how to scale. So it's been a learning process, honestly. It literally feels like back when you lose a whole team and you're starting all over multiple times as you grow a chiropractic office. It feels like that. You're starting with a new team when you're working with clinic director. In my scenario, operations manager, clinic director is a lead doc, and then our operations manager who runs the day-to-day in the office. But me learning how to be a good leader for them and how to give them clarity on what's most important so that they can lead the doc team and the team and then see that grow has just been like, I'll like slow down to speed up. Is it like, probably haven't gone as fast in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Definitely not as fast as if I would have just been in there.
Right. And we're talking
Pushing.
about just the practice.
Just the practice, talking about just higher health. But
here's my experience when I see, because chiropractors, are so commonly entrepreneurial, right? So they'll have their practice and then they want to start another thing. And, typically they'll grow their practice and they'll have this booming practice, and all of a sudden they kind of get bored with that. And they're like, okay, I've slayed that dragon. I've been there, done that. I've been successful. And we love the fight, right? Like we love the challenge and we love the game. So we end up invariably finding something else we could do. And next thing you know, we launch a new initiative or new business, and you end up seeing this happen. Yeah. Right. So we go from having a $2 million business to a $1 million business and a $500,000 business. And we're like, wait a minute, what just happened there? As you get your limited time, energy, focus, and money gets spread across two entities and you lose focus. What has your experience been there?
That's a great question. I've somehow been able to really avoid. Are you referencing in like HHC with the second location? Or are you referencing like two different businesses entirely?
I'm thinking both, right? So you started SKED, and very commonly, you'll have a superstar chiropractor like you who goes from working in the business of the chiropractic practice, and you pull yourself out of the adjustatorium and you go and you focus on SKED.
Yeah.
You go focus on your secondary tech platform. Next thing you know, the practice atrophies while you're building the other business. And, you find yourself 2 years later being like, what have I done?
Yeah, luckily we never had that happen. Maybe it's because the chiropractic business was funding the other business, and it had to do well. I'm sure we probably would have grown more if I didn't have the second business, and we still grew a lot, significantly. Every year has been a record year, like pretty much since we started the company in Higher Health. But I think you have to be okay with slowing down. Like I accepted the fact that I knew. It's just funny. When you're in the practice, there's things that you don't have to create an SOP for because you just know this is what we do. And you just make sure it gets done every day. Well, when you step out and now you're leading a clinic director and an operations manager that leads other people, like all of a sudden you'll find out like 2 months later that something isn't, wait, we're not doing day one phone calls anymore. Like, what happened to that? And before I could just step in and just start doing day one phone calls. Well, now I have to figure out, okay, well, what's the process? What broke here? Why did this happen? And then help somebody else figure out how to identify that and how to implement a process and accountability to make sure that never happens again. And it's just so much slower than me just going and making the darn phone calls again. But it's essential because then it creates like, how do I not have this conversation 6 months from now? Like, how do we make sure we never, ever stop doing day one phone calls again? And you implement a process and your business gets more durable, but it just takes a little bit more effort and time instead of just doing it yourself. And that's just been my life for the last 2 years, is like finding those areas and improving the accountability within a team. And I'm okay with it going a slower path because I know that we're creating durability, which is going to allow us to grow infinitely as soon as, we just get, it's almost like layers of scabs or something, you just get stronger and stronger and stronger as you build.
So you use the word that's, I think, key to all of it is accountability. Without accountability, you won't get traction, right? So you get motion, but no movement, right? So, what we have created to help establish traction for the doctors is reporting systems that give you visibility into what should be happening with these processes, because all processes are measurable and they create KPIs, right? So, and then reporting systems have meeting rhythms that go with it so that you're actually talking about your reporting systems, right? So that creates the accountability that actually moves the machine forward, right? So scorecards, scoreboards, making sure that you have your reporting systems in place with your team members so that you can actually hold them to something objective, right? So what has that meant for you and for your business is having that level of visibility and accountability so that you don't have to be actually in the clinic being like, hey, why haven't I heard us doing a day one, phone call in a while, right? Let's start doing that again. You're not even thinking like that anymore because you've got an operations person who's manning the reporting systems and meeting rhythms. Am I right?
Yes. I mean, it's the only way that it works. It would just be complete. And it's the limitation to like the next level. I think most chiropractors, you could get to 300 to 500 a week and hire an associate or two and still just kind of winging everything, like even if it's like, you're seeing 10 to 15 new patients a month and it's just kind of chugging along. But we're at, we're over 100 new patients a month. We're at 1,600 visits a week between 2 locations and 15 team members and team of 5 docs. Like, there's just so much going on. It's way harder. So much easier if I just had 1 doc and 2 team members. Like, so much more going on that everybody just assumes somebody else is going to take care of it or do it, and nobody's accountable to anything if you didn't like specifically have it like laid out. So it's almost harder because not everybody then you have part-timers and you have people working different shifts and docs that just never see a certain patient because in our office it's a broken white line system. Somebody walks into adjusting room, whoever happens to be in there, adjust them. It's just so many variables that you need to control that very clear accountability and on what's most important and who's accountable to that. I think accountability and responsibility was another big one that helped me a lot with the team. On everybody's responsible, one person's accountable. Right. That helps our team, and that language and those words inside of our team is so normal now on everybody talking, allows us to have a great culture.
That's great. So I'm going to fish for a testimonial here. So how has the Remarkable Practice helped you achieve everything that we're describing here and discussing? If you were talking to somebody else, and I so appreciate your advocacy, you send so many people our way, like this is for me as your coach to hear this from you, like what is the most valuable aspect of what we do for you and your business? We work with your team, your office manager, Jason is awesome, and your clinic director, John, and CAs, et cetera, like, and the immersions, et cetera. It's just like, we just appreciate the trust. And I love to hear, it's like, what's most valuable to you so I can lean in there?
I think that you actually coach, but you coach at each level. So I hire you to coach me. I hire your team to coach my doctors. I hire your team to coach my CAs. I hire you to coach my operations manager. Like, you guys are coaching everybody on my team in different levels on what's most important in my practice right now on a quarter by quarter basis. which allows us, I can use resources to pay you to do that for me, knowing that you also 100% align with our vision and our mission and our core values and what we're trying to create and who we are. That is by far the most valuable part of coaching with TRP.
Thank you, brother. So appreciate you.
Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our remarkable success partner dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy.
Welcome, everyone. So with me today, I have Dr. Adrian, the creator and the master of the Denneroll. We've been with him for years. We've been using the Denneroll for years for our practice, our patients for getting great outcomes. However, he is such a great chiropractor. He's such a great practitioner, but at the same time, he is out there to help people, help more people. And the way he does that is through the Denneroll. So I don't want to put too many words into your mouth, Dr. Adrian, but if you could speak a little bit about yourself and what you do, would be absolutely amazing.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me to share my journey, and that's helped a lot of people. And that's right. If I can continue to help more people and help practitioners help their patients, then it's a privilege to be able to do so. What can I say? Like, becoming a chiropractor was a great honor and privilege and itself. And then as soon as I got into practice, I would see that people would have imbalances, mainly like with their forward head posture and their cervical spine. And we would adjust them, but it just made sense to me that while those imbalances were there, the problems would be cyclical and they would just keep coming back. And I was like, what do you do for that? And so for a forward head posture or a poor neck curve where you've got C2 well in front of C7, that's putting a lot of stress that we know on the nervous system and the muscles and the spine. We would do soft tissue work on the muscles, and we would adjust the joints and give them exercises. But we would find when there was that stiffness in the spine, it wasn't changing and the problems would be repetitive. So people were saying, get them to lie on a roll towel, which felt maybe therapeutic, but I didn't feel like it was going to be effective enough to make the changes that they might need. So I started making my own sort of neck rolls just as a more effective version of a roll towel, and ended up coming up with the Denneroll. And the front section here makes it really stable. Your shoulders anchor it down, and that stops from tipping and sliding. And then I made the top very narrow, so it could be really effective in bending into extension that you need. And then we had this back section here, which would reinforce the top and stop it from collapsing. And those three keys are what makes the Denneroll so effective. And my patients really loved it. I trialed it over several different designs, and this is what we came up with. And I kept seeing really good results from my patients. And then I asked other chiropractors in my spare time, would they like to try it for theirs? And eventually I started looking up to why it was effective. And we did some research, and it showed that it was so effective that we could see a positional change in the bones of the spine straight after using the Denneroll off one use. So it was effective enough to get through the musculature and into the ligaments and the joints, which is very therapeutic in many ways. And that's where it sort of started. I met the science of chiropractic biophysics, but we started analyzing, and starting to measure the ways we can actually help patients. And patients love it. You give it to them and you explain it to them. They understand their posture and their spine, and it gives them something to do and something to take home. And it makes them more involved in their care. And there's nothing worse as a patient than feeling like you're a bit helpless and your problems are cyclical. So it sort of empowers them and keeps them involved. And we do this in a combination with different exercises. And they're lying on this for 5 to 10 minutes and working their way up to about 20 minutes. And so it's so simple to use, and it allows them to feel like they can contribute to the benefits that they're going to get in their chiropractic care. It'll never replace an adjustment, but together it works really well. And then you add that with exercises, and they're really happy. And sometimes we stage those when they're ready to do those exercises. And we have ones like these bands that go around the back of your neck, and they also promote the effectiveness of the Denneroll, but also help strengthening the results of what you can achieve. And you just put this behind your neck, and you're going to look up, and you're going to start to pulse backwards and do exercise like this. So it's something as simple as that, and getting your chiropractic adjustments straight away you've added a couple of extra dimensions to chiropractic care that they may not have received before. And the easy thing is that it's so simple to use. It's quick, and if I'm showing them how to do an exercise, I would like to get their phone and I film them with their phone while I instruct them. And then straight away, when they go home, they've got it there for them. So they've got that assistance. So it's giving them that home care support. And also it's something they can use in office too when they're coming in. If they're in early and they're waiting to be adjusted, they go online with Denneroll or they do their exercises.
That's one of the big things. Like
Yeah.
you touched on so many good points, and what we found is one of the really, really good ones that you mentioned was people feel like they're not doing anything between. They feel helpless, right? Like I'm only just relying on the chiropractic care. But most people, us included, we always want to be involved. We want to do things to help support ourselves. So I find that the Denneroll is such a great inclusion because it gives people a clear, sound strategy of how it works, what it needs, what they need to do to get the outcomes that they want. And it's just so simple, and it's like you said, easy to understand.
Yeah.
Helps the service, helps align the service. Can't say the word. Helps align the curvature of your spine, right? And I know there's cervical general, there's a thoracic, there's the lumbar. There's a lot more details that we can go into a bit later. But the other thing I want to touch on as well is the fact that it complements into practice so easily.
Yeah.
And no other place other than chiropractors that do have the Denneroll, they've never seen anything else like it. That's what makes it so unique.
Yeah. And simple to use, and implement. But it's never going to replace an adjustment, and getting adjusted first can really help make your Denneroll time on the Denneroll easier. Some people are quite challenged in it. And by challenged, meaning that they're just putting their neck into extension. And that's right. There is ones for the mid back. So when people are too hunched, we want to create extension there. And then in the lower back, when they're slouching a lot or sitting at a desk a lot, their lower back can start to flatten out. So we have these effective extension blocks that are different shapes for different regions of your spine to get that extension back in. And then we support that with the exercises. One of the great things has been the research that's been involved, that people have done. It's okay if we get those changes, but what are the real benefits of that? And we've been able to measure, we know that your nervous system fires faster and stronger. And then when we know that your range of motion improves, we know that you get reduced muscle tension, like in response, you become less sensitive to trigger point pain. We know it helps with long-term outcomes when we do make changes from anything from vertigo to headaches to chronic discogenic symptoms. We look at respiratory improvements with thoracic, when we improve thoracic hyperkyphosis. There's so much research, and we even have one looking at blood flow to the brain, which was amazing. So, all these things are pretty powerful, and they're really good key points where you can talk about how your spine and structure is affecting your health. And so that's one thing sometimes that people don't understand is that, we don't want to talk too mechanistically to them, but we want to understand how it's impacting their health and impacting their lifestyle. So, you can find which part of the lifestyle that you think you're being impeded with, and you can understand how this is going to help benefit you get back to doing those things that you love to do.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
so
And once they know that, then they're really motivated. Yeah. And yeah, they just feel really good about it.
And one of the things that I'll ask them, like for all our listeners today, they may be asking, I haven't heard of Denneroll before. I've tried Denneroll before. Let's say that, we know nothing about it, but I want to know more. I want to find out more about Denneroll. I want to incorporate it into my practice. What would that look like? How would that look like? If you can speak into that a bit more as well, Doc.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing you do as a practitioner, you would email info@denneroll.com, and our team would help them understand what products are available. And then I'm there for technical assistance. And the other thing is, about anywhere from 2 to 4 times a year, I run Denneroll training days where they can come for 8 hours. They get formal learning points, and we go through all of the research and how to streamline the clinical implementation of the Dennerolls, and how to know really what benefits that you can be sure the best way to explain it to patients, and what you can promise them, because people do get varied structural changes with X-ray. when you're doing re-x-rays, a lot of people, some people change really well, and some people really don't change much at all, and that can be create a lack of confidence in knowing what things you can deliver for the patients. But what we know is that there are lots of reasons for that, but there are lots of functional benefits that you're going to get along the way. So when I see a patient that has an imbalance in their spine and posture, what I understand is that, okay, we understand that stretching your spine in the right direction is going to be a healthy addition to your chiropractic care that you're receiving in office, and then combined with exercises. And it's going to give you functional benefits of X, Y, and Z, range of motion, posture, all these things, reducing injuries, those things. And if we can make some corrective changes in your spine, that's going to give us better longer term outcomes, because some people, they actually have some changes in their spine that you can't correct, right? So they're going to need to use the Dennerolls for general maintenance. That's going just as a healthy tool forever. It's something that they do, like brushing your teeth.
That's right.
And if you're not doing that, their spine can get worse over time. So what we're trying to do at least is maintain it at a healthy position. And if we can change it, even better, but we don't want it to get worse. Yeah. And so these are the different things. We did some research we had 570 patients take part, and they varied their use of the Denneroll. Some did it 3 times a week and some did it 7 days a week. Which ones do you think got the most changes?
The people that use them more.
Every day. That's right. So you might choose a program, or a patient might use the Denneroll for a maintenance for 3 times a week, or their maintenance could be 6 times a week. But one thing's for sure, if they're trying to make changes, we're going to try and ask them to even do it twice a day.
Yeah.
And they're going to be diligent with that. And it's just such a fantastic thing that they can have to feel once again empowered in having a say in what outcomes they can achieve.
I love it. The last thing I'll say on that is you can, outside of the practice, like if they're in the practice, they're here to get adjusted. Once they leave, what's out there? Phones, technology, sitting, screens. So people are just constantly losing that lack of curvature, right? They're putting themselves into a stress state. So the Denneroll is just there is a great way to counteract that stress. Because I really think about it and I say, outside of the practice, outside of getting adjusted, what else do you have that really helps bring back your neck curvature? What brings your neck back that supports that? Not really anything that I can think of. So I feel like it's very powerful. So guys, info@denneroll.com, email, get the information, incorporate it into your practice, and it flows so effectively. Like we go through boxes with you guys. We give it to every practice member that starts care with us, and people just get better outcomes. It's also a good revenue stream into the practice, but the key factor here is it's more about getting people great outcomes, because when people get great outcomes, they're going to stay on the care longer. They're going to refer more people. I'm sure you found that's works the exact same way for you, Doc.
I've had many patients get referred in because their friend had a Denneroll and they wanted to know what it was all about. Yeah, and then I would also do talks with trainers and gyms and explain to them where some of the functional impedance that their clients have are to do with their spine, and when they recognize that, they refer them in, and it works really well. Because one thing you do need to know is that when you're asking about what else can they do to make those changes, it's the ligaments. The ligaments get really stiff. And so when we have a nice healthy neck curve that starts to be lost, the ligaments in the front of the spine are quite stiff, and they don't change easy without an effective stretch. And there's got to be load over time. So just general exercise and even an adjustment hasn't proven to change that. Adjustments are vital in helping the restore the movement intersegmentally with each neighboring joint. But then if we want to make these changes to our ligaments, they need load over time. And that's a device that the Denneroll can be used in. So
Love it.
that's a really important key. If I see someone that was really hunched, but they had that flexibility, I would probably just recommend more exercises because they can make those changes. But if they're stiff and rigid, they're not going to get the changes they want. And there's some of the things you learn about when you come to my training days. So it's info@denneroll.com for general inquiries.
That's
If
it.
you want technical support, it's adrian@denneroll.com. I'm always welcome to talk to people. And if you can get to a training day, my staff will help you understand when they're on. My next one's August 24, but I think it's sold out, but I'm trying to run another one this year as well.
Love it, Doc. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors.